The Pokémon of our younger years, I'm talking Generation 1 and 2 here, were all inventive creatures. Most fans of the games and series strongly renounce the later generations that followed. And fair enough, while every now and then there's a great new Pokémon that comes along, there's always a slew of monsters that feel as if the creative teams behind them have just kind of run out of ideas. But there is a slight exception to that rule, in the form of Ghost Pokémon. They're the only types of Pokémon from newer generations that seem to have any sort of real thought behind them. Except that creative thought is straight up nightmare fuel, considering the concepts that these Pokémon are based on. So today we're taking a closer look at some of these spooky creatures with our list of the top 10 horrifying Pokémon. In at number 10, Mimikyu. Starting off this list is a Pokémon who has lots of roots in a Alola region legend, but not for being profoundly powerful or incredibly rare, for being more so of an urban legend. Mimikyu is a Pokémon who is of the disguised species according to the Pokédex. It lives its life completely covered by a cloth, with its true form always hidden. In Alola, there's rumors that anyone who sees what it looks like beneath its cloth will be stricken with a mysterious illness. This is taken even further with its Pokédex entries. Pokemon Sun states its actual appearance is unknown. A scholar who saw what was under its rag was overwhelmed by terror and died from the shock. In Moon, it states it conceals its terrifying appearance beneath an old rag so that it can get closer to people and other Pokemon, which is kinda sad, right? But in Ultra Sun, it states that if you try to look under its rag, it will become agitated and resist violently. And in Ultra Moon, it gets worse. A gust of wind revealed what hides under this Pokemon's rag to a passing trainer, who went home and died painfully that very night. Yeah, no thanks, I'm out. Up next, number 9, Phantump. What's worse than a Pokemon that can kill you by just looking at it? How about one that tricks you into getting lost in a forest? Oh, and it's a tree stump. Phantump is a stump Pokemon who is possessed by the spirit of a child who died when it got lost in the forest. Despite how that may elicit a bit of sympathy in you, don't be fooled. Those stumps are assholes. In Ultra Sun's Pokedex, it describes Phantump like this. By intimidating the voice of a child, it causes people to get hopelessly lost deep in the forest. It's trying to make friends with them. No word on whether or not it lures children specifically to starve them to death so that they can become other Phantumps, but all things considered, that's not too far of a leap. And at number 8, Sliggoo. Sliggoo is known as the soft tissue Pokemon. It's a dragon type, and it's got a thing for being slimy. Now, Sliggoo isn't a Pokemon that you'd immediately be wary of. Its Pokedex entry states that it drives away opponents by excreting a sticky liquid that can dissolve anything. Its eyes devolved, so it can't see anything. Sounds like a pretty decent survival skill considering it's pretty much blind. But then take its Pokemon Sun Pokedex entry into account. It has trouble drawing a line between friends and food. It will calmly try to melt and eat even those it gets along well with. If you want a better idea of what that entails, in Moon, this is what its entry says. Toothless, it sprays mucus on its prey. Once they're nicely dissolved, it slurps them up. Grossed out much? Seems totally fine if you're training one in a game, but in hypothetical land, if Pokemon were real, how horrific would it be to raise and train a Sliggoo, build what you assume would be a bond with it, and all of a sudden, one day out of the blue, it decides it wants to dissolve your flesh and eat you? Yeah, not overly keen on that prospect. And at number 7, Gourgeist. Alright, a pumpkin Pokemon. Seems harmless, yeah? Nah. Appearing in Pokemon X and Y, and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Gourgeist is a bit of a sadist. How so? Well, here's its 2 Pokédex entries from those games collectively. Singing in eerie voices, they wander town streets on the night of the new moon. Anyone who hears their song is cursed. It enwraps its prey in its hair-like arms. It sings joyfully as it observes the suffering of its prey. Yeah, I'm starting to really understand why there's never a lot of people walking around the streets of cities in Pokemon games, and why they always feel so sparse. It's because their world is a living death trap with homicidal monsters like Gourgeist strolling around every new moon to torment civilians. How's that for ruining your childhood? Up next at 6, Lampent. It should be no surprise that Lampent is known as the lamp Pokemon. Bit self-explanatory there, eh? But what's so scary about a lamp, you may ask? Well, apparently it wanders cities searching for spirits of the fallen. According to the Pokemon White Pokedex, it arrives near the moment of death and steals spirit from the body, and the spirits it absorbs fuels its baleful fire. It hangs around hospitals waiting for people to pass on. If that's not horribly morbid, I don't know what is. And at 5, Banette. Aside from having one hell of a snaggletooth, this Pokemon is a tad on the masochistic side. It generates energy for laying strong curses by sticking pins into its own body. When it first appeared in Ruby and Sapphire, these were its Pokedex entries. This Pokemon was originally a pitiful plush doll that was thrown away. Kinda sad, right? But then for Sapphire, it read, a cursed energy permeated the stuffing of a discarded and forgotten plush doll, giving it new life as Banette. How many plush dolls get morphed by this cursed energy that they're talking about? Because these little guys definitely aren't rare. Find them pretty commonly actually. Is Bennett the result of some sort of island of misfit toys gone wrong? It only got worse in later games. Fire Red and Leaf Green Pokedex entries say that strong feelings of hatred turned a puppet into a Pokemon, while Emerald states they are said to live in garbage dumps and wander about in search of the children that threw them away. Homicidal plushies. And you thought your stuffed toys didn't have feelings. In at number 4, Frostlass. Frostlass is actually fairly tragic. An ice ghost Pokemon, it first appears in Generation 4. According to the Pokédex, I quote, "Legends in snowy regions say that a woman who was lost on an icy mountain was reborn as Frostlass." This only got worse by the time Pokemon Sun rolled around. With this, when it finds humans or Pokemon it likes, it freezes them and takes them to its chilly den, where they become decorations. Okay, sadistic much? That's some crazy serial killer shit right there. Frostlass went from being a Pokemon we were sympathetic with to one that seems quite emotionally unstable. To add insult to injury, the Ultra Moon entry reads, "It's said that on nights of terrible blizzards, it comes down to human settlements. If you hear it knocking at your door, do not open it." You don't have to tell me twice. Up next, number 3, Drifloon. Come on now, how could a balloon Pokemon be creepy? Well, this flying ghost type didn't seem all that bad when it first debuted. Its Pokédex entry in Diamond said, "A Pokemon formed by the spirits of people in Pokemon. It loves damp, humid seasons." Alright, not that spooky. But as time progressed and Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out, its entry was updated to say, "It is whispered that any child who mistakes Drifloon for a balloon and holds onto it could wind up missing." Even better, in Pokemon Sun, its entry reads, "Stories go that it grabs the hands of small children and drags them away to the afterlife. It dislikes heavy children." So not only is it a child abductor, it's also a body shamer too. If that doesn't do it for you, perhaps its entry in Pokemon Moon will. If for some reason its body bursts, its soul spills out with a screaming sound. Yeah, lovely. Up next, number 2, Cofagris. Cofagris is a coffin Pokemon whose Pokemon Black Pokedex entry reads that it has been said that they swallow those who get too close and turn them into mummies. They also like to eat gold nuggets. Aside from having a very expensive preference of food, this Cofagris literally eats anyone that gets close to them, kills them, and then turns them into mummies. Do you know what mummification consists of? It ain't pretty. What's even better is the Pokemon White Pokedex description. They pretend to be elaborate coffins to teach lessons to grave robbers. In other words, they are doing this out of some sort of sick vindication, or to get their kicks. Yeah, teach those grave robbers a lesson by murdering them and tearing out their insides and then wrapping them in bandages. Seems sound. So what's creepier than a mummy machine? How about the Pokemon it was before its evolution? Next up, in our number 1 spot, Yamask. A Generation 5 Pokemon, Yamask first appeared in Pokemon Black and White, with 2 similar yet equally terrifying Pokedex entries. In Black, the Pokedex read, "Each of them carries a mask that used to be its face when it was human. Sometimes they look at it and cry." And in White, the entry said, "These Pokemon arose from the spirits of people interred in graves in past ages. Each retains memories of its former life." Okay, so what have we learned from this? Well, Yamask is a ghost Pokemon that used to be human. It died, was buried, then at some point something caused it to rise from the grave in this form. And attached to it was a mask that used to be its face. It's essentially forced back to life and has to carry around its head, which it most definitely does not like considering it sometimes cries when it looks at that head. That's some up stuff, Nintendo. Not overly pleasant. Well, there we have it, friends. That felt increasingly bleak, didn't it? Makes you miss the days just wandering around in tall grass where the worst you had to worry about was being bothered by Pidgeys and Rattatas. So, how do you guys feel about all these Pokemon? Are there any in particular that you like from this list based off of their stats rather than their depressing Pokedex entries? Let us know in those comments below. And as always, if you dug this video, please show us some love by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. And hey, why not share it with a friend? If you want more gaming vids, feel free to check out our channel and maybe take a look at our recently uploaded playlist that's flashing on your screen right now. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I've been Kelly Pally and this is Top 10 Gaming. Catch you all in the next one.